One of the biggest unanswered questions in K-pop Demon Hunters is Rumi's backstory, more specifically who her father is. Fans have been speculating non-stop, and the internet is overflowing with wild theories, some more believable than others. But there's one particular theory gaining traction that, if it turns out to be true, I'm honestly going to be really disappointed. And I'm not usually the type to overreact, but this one? It's a tough pill to swallow. The theory claims that Rumi's father is none other than Guima, the film's main villain, the all-powerful Demon King. Sounds explosive, right? But honestly, it feels like recycled drama. That whole evil overlord turns out to be the heroine's secret father twist is so overused it's practically a soap opera cliché. We've seen this exact plot play out in way too many stories, and I don't think this one needs to join the list. Let's break it down. In the movie, there's no indication that Guima has any idea Rumi is half demon. And if he didn't know, it's safe to say no other demon did either. Not even Jinu, who was visibly stunned when he saw her markings for the first time. Do you really think Guima, who constantly talks about devouring souls and dominating everything in sight, would keep that kind of game-changing secret to himself? Of course not. The demons would know, especially Jinu. He would have used that information the moment they crossed paths. And there's one scene that completely shuts this theory down. When Jinu returns to the demon realm and tells Guima about the hunter with the markings, Guima admits he can't even reach her. If she were his daughter, he'd at least have a plan in motion, or some kind of leverage. But there's nothing. Now let's talk about Guima's appearance. He's basically a supernatural entity who never leaves the demon world. He only shows up in the human realm at the very end, and only because he wants to consume the soul of all Korea. He doesn't think small. Sure, demons can take on human forms, but we've never seen what his human disguise looks like. The theory tries to explain this away by saying he once took human form, met Rumi's mother, had a forbidden romance, and boom, Rumi was born. But honestly, that sounds more like fanfiction than a believable plot twist. In short, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't fit, and if the story ever confirms it, I'll need a moment of silence for the script's creativity. I'm fully convinced that Guima is not Rumi's father. Everything about his role in the story points to something else. Throughout the film, he's always delegating tasks to other demons, sending them on missions to eliminate the legendary trio from centuries ago. If he were her father, that dynamic would be entirely different. It makes far more sense that her real father is another demon, one who hasn't been introduced yet. Some fans have suggested that her father could be Guima's son, which would make Rumi his granddaughter. Dramatic? Absolutely. Possible? Maybe. But I tend to follow a different theory, one that's closely tied to Jinu, our enigmatic, centuries-old character. Jinu is over 400 years old. He didn't start out as a demon. He was once an ordinary human who accepted Guima's offer, a life of luxury, power, and status within the demon realm. But the cost was enormous. He had to abandon his mother and sister, and unknowingly, the deal turned him into something no longer fully human. This detail matters. It proves that Guima has the power to turn humans into demons through pacts. If he did it to Jinu, there's every reason to believe he's done it before or since. Many of those transformed might have died trying to eliminate the singer trio, but some could have survived, living on in secrecy. And let's be honest, aside from rare cases like Jinu, most of the demons we see are weak, hesitant, and far less powerful. Just compare the Saja boys to Jinu's demonic form. The difference is massive. In fact, some fans believe the Saja boys were also once human, because their demon forms still retain human features. That's where the theory takes shape. I believe Rumi's father was also a human who was turned into a demon, just like Jinu. Think about it. Even Celine, who deeply loves Rumi, showed hesitation when it came to her markings. And when Mira and Zoe found out the truth, they immediately turned on her, because everything they'd been taught as K-pop warriors was built on one absolute: demons are evil, no exceptions. But Rumi, after realizing that Jinu wasn't just a villain but someone who had been manipulated, began to see the human side of him. That's what created a bond between them. So, why couldn't something similar have happened with her mother? Picture this. Rumi's father, already transformed into a demon against his will, meets Ryu Miang. Over time, they grow close. She sees the remnants of his humanity, and somehow manages to quiet the voice of Guima in his mind, just like Rumi did with Jinu when they sang together. For a while, the two were able to live out their relationship in secret, hidden from the eyes of the demon realm. But as we know, fate wasn't kind to Solari. Ryu vanished from the story. Celine was the only one who survived. And there's even a theory claiming that Celine was the one who killed Rumi's mother, though that's a whole other rabbit hole worth its own deep dive. The point is, according to this theory, Rumi's father was a demon, but before that he was human. And that single detail changes everything. It draws a direct parallel between his story and Jinu's, and creates a far more meaningful emotional thread than simply dropping a last-minute surprise, "the villain is your dad" reveal. Another theory that stands out, and leans into a darker interpretation, is that Rumi's father was entirely human, and it was actually her mother, Ryu Miang, who carried the demon bloodline. Sounds unlikely? Consider this: in every single scene where Ryu appears, she's always wearing long sleeves. Every time. That might just be a costume choice, or it could be a deliberate decision by the writers to hide demonic markings on her arms, just like Rumi does throughout the film. Here's where the theory takes a heavy turn. When Celine discovered that Ryu wasn't fully human, she may have been the one who killed her. But even after doing so, Celine couldn't shake the guilt. That lingering remorse might be exactly why she chose to raise Rumi as her own, out of a sense of responsibility and redemption. It would also explain why she was so desperate to keep Rumi's secret from the rest of the group. She knew the truth. If Mira and Zoe ever found out Rumi was half demon, the response would be immediate and non-negotiable: elimination. And then there's that key moment. Rumi, broken and defeated, stands before Celine expecting death, but Celine refuses. In this context, her hesitation isn't just compassion, it's memory. She's reliving what happened with Ryu and refusing to repeat that same mistake. There's even an alternate version of this theory that shifts the blame. In that scenario, it wasn't Celine who killed Ryu. It was the third member of the original Solari group, the one who's barely mentioned and never shown in the present timeline. Celine witnessed what happened, and even if she didn't side with Ryu at the time, she came to understand that the murder shattered their team forever. With Ryu dead and the other member gone, possibly also dead, Celine was left as the last survivor, taking on the burden of raising her friend's daughter alone. Either way, this theory reframes Celine's character entirely. She's not just a mentor or protector. She's someone carrying the weight of a violent past, guarding a secret so dangerous it could unravel everything if exposed. But there's one last possibility that takes everything to a whole new level, and honestly, it might completely change the way we understand Rumi's story. What if the mark she carries isn't demonic at all? From the very beginning, everyone assumed that the markings on Rumi's body were proof of demon blood. But if you really pay attention, they behave differently. They respond to music, they pulse with rhythm, and they awaken when she sings, in ways no other demonic energy does in K-pop demon hunters. What if that mark is something far more ancient? Maybe Rumi isn't tied to Guima or any pact from recent generations. Maybe she's the descendant of an older lineage, a force that predates the demon realm. A power rooted in harmony, sound, and the balance between worlds. A power that was hidden or destroyed because it posed a threat to both the demons and the humans who feared what they couldn't control. If that's the case, then Rumi isn't just a hybrid. She's a living relic of something long forgotten, something powerful. And here's where it gets even more intriguing. What if she's not the only one? Think about it. The archives of the warrior order are incomplete. Missions have been erased. Anomalies were documented, then ignored. And throughout the film, some demons don't act with aggression toward Rumi. They hesitate, almost like they recognize something ancient, something dangerous. Even Jinu seems to sense that there's more to her than anyone realizes, not just in her abilities, but in her very existence. This could mean there are others like Rumi out there, hidden, lost, maybe even eliminated before their true power awakened. And maybe the powers on both sides, humans and demons, work together to keep this buried. If that's true, Rumi isn't a mistake. She's a signal, the first sign of something that was never supposed to return. And her mark? Not a curse, but a call. So if this theory is right, K-pop Demon Hunters has only scratched the surface of its mythology. And if you're still here, that means you're just like me, someone who lives for decoding every layer of this story. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more deep dives into the world of K-pop Demon Hunters, and leave a comment below. Do you think Rumi is one of a kind, or just the beginning of something much bigger? See you in the next one.